Recording has started. All right. So once again, my name is Oloruntobatolu Alashe Gabriel, and this is brought to you by Abuja PUG User Group, and we have a very special guest in our midst this afternoon. A very big one at that. Someone I really look up to, and I'm looking at his profile and I'm saying, God, when? God, when? His name is Mr. Gbenga Adeyemo. I first met him when we were searching for jobs. Somebody said there's a group, Data Job Nigeria, and from there, I've been privileged to attend several of his events, and I can tell you for a fact, easy to be Microsoft certified trainer, right? So he's a Microsoft certified trainer. It's also a Microsoft MVP. Let me just read out his profile. I think it's best that way so that you can see it with your eye. Right, Mr. Gbenga is an analytic and senior data analyst. He's a Microsoft MVP, which is the most valuable professional, and also a Microsoft certified trainer, which means he's certified for this section, right, to train and do this section with us. Among several certifications, right, he has a Peer 300, which is a Power BI data analyst. He also has a Fabric Analytic Engineer Associate. He also has a Fabric Data Engineer Associate, the Azure Data Fundamentals, Excel Associate, that is M365 apps, and excuse me. Oh, he's also the community lead of Fabric and Power BI user group in Winnipeg. I think that's in Canada, and also the community lead of the Power Platform user group and the community lead and Aga Patapata of the Data Job Nigeria. His experience and all of that. Of course, 6 years plus experience. Is a technical trainer, again, certified trainer, and he has worked across several sectors. You have the healthcare, the manufacturing, retail, logistics, and deployed numerous solution. We are privileged, sir, to have you on board and to have you as a speaker today. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us. So I'll just leave the floor to you, and yeah, that's all I can say at this point. Let me allow you to take the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, everyone. Please, can you acknowledge that you can hear me clearly?
Yes,
In
I
case
can
I
hear
need
you.
to adjust my
I,
mic. Okay.
I can
Thank
hear
you.
you.
Thank you guys
Sure say,
for
you sure say you no go
in,
send me that mic.
thank you guys for inviting me. And also, please, where is Sid? Why is she not here?
So Sid will be joining us. I think she needed to wrap up some office stuff. She'll be joining us
Oh,
now in like
okay, no
two to
problem. No
five
problem.
minutes. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So once again, guys, thank you for bringing me on board, for inviting me. I
She's
appreciate
here.
it. Okay. It's always a privilege to share knowledge within the community. I mean, it's something that I love doing and I've been doing for a while now. Yeah, welcome, Sid. Okay, so I don't want to waste your time. Uh, for me, in fact, it not because it's my first time here, assuming I'm among people that I'm used to, I probably not even have done any slide at all. I mean, I always like to be 90% practical, 10% theory. That's the way I like to always teach. I prefer the practical thing than, although the theory is very important too, to give us some sort of foundation on what we are about to do today. So I would like the class to be an engaging one. In fact, since we are not much, I would prefer if people can turn on their cameras so that I want that engagement to be there, right? So can you guys please turn on your camera if you can? Right? I don't want to start mentioning it. But if you can turn on your camera, I think that would be preferred. Okay. Okay, so has anybody heard of virtual tables before? Anybody? Whether by YouTube, somebody mentioned it somewhere, or anyhow, or maybe you've even used it before in your DAX expression. Can anybody tell me? Can you unmute your mic and tell me? Fast,
So I think the
Fausia.
first time,
Okay,
Fauzia,
go ahead, Gabriel.
I think the first time I would be on a YouTube video with
Okay,
for Following Show, but I didn't really
okay,
pay attention to that. But I'm glad that's what we are doing today. So I'm getting my pen and my jotter ready.
Okay. So it seems like you've heard of the concept before.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dima, have you heard of virtual tables before?
No, I have not.
Okay, this is your first time. Okay, what about Olanrewaju? Olanrewaju, this is your first time?
Yeah, it sounds familiar, but this I'd like to learn more about it. Sounds familiar to be fair.
Okay, thank you. What about Fauziya? Don't sorry about pronounce the name very well. Is this your first time?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I want you guys to be very engaging. If you can turn on your video, it's fine. Now let's go ahead. So, what is virtual table? I'm going to share my screen now. And I'm going to just show you what virtual table is. We are going to do little theory and we go straight to, I promise you, it's not going to be a long section at all. Very, very short and straight to the point. There's no need for us to be diving here and there. It's just to introduce you guys to the concepts and how you can use inside of your Power BI. Please, can you all see my screen? Let me know if you can see my screen, please.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, thank you. So topic for today, once again, is virtual table in Power BI. Now, what is virtual table? Virtual table is a table created on the fly using DAX. Now, it exists only during calculation. It's not stored in your model. I will explain that. So what I'm saying is that you know that when we create what is called calculated tables in Power BI, sometimes we create it maybe probably based on referencing some already existing table that we have in our data model. For example, now I'll give you a good example. Maybe you create a calendar table. Now, maybe you have a sales table or a table called orders table, and you have orders dates inside of that table. Now, you can create your calendar table to capture the minimum and the maximum dates of that order date. So what you're trying to do is that you're trying to be very smart. You don't want to create your calendar table to grow beyond the dates, the minimum and the maximum date range of your sales table or your fact table. Now, in another case, we have cases whereby, for example, maybe we have what we call accumulating snapshot fact table, where you would have different dates based on different stages of the process life cycle. For example, you have the order date, you have the ship date, you have delivery dates. You can create a calendar table that will pick the minimum order date and the maximum delivery date. And what you're trying to do is just to ensure that your calendar table, now, when you create such table, that is a physical table because that table exists inside of your model. You are going to be able to see it in the where you see your what was it we call it the data pane, the field pane. You will see that table exist inside there. And the more you create a table inside of your model, I mean, when you create a table, whether by referencing another table or not, it adds to your data model in terms of size, and you're going to also see it existing physically in your model. Now, that is a physical table. Now, but virtual table, they are not what you are going to see inside of your model, the way you would see a physical table, right? The way it will appear in your feed pane. You will not see it that way. It's only within the context of your calculation or your measure. That is where you're going to see that table exist. And the reason why we usually have that table is because we usually want to like reuse it at every time. So every time you refresh your Power BI data or whatever, you want it to run that table. Now, it's creating that, is what we call creating that table in memory. I don't know whether anybody knows what we call a memory and physical creation. A physical creation means that you see the table existing. It adds size, it adds more data size to your model. For example, your model is 100 MB, you had more table, you can see 105 MB, depending on the size of the table that you are creating. Now, but a virtual table is a table that is created in memory. It means that your random access memory, that is the RAM of your laptop, of your system, is the one that keeps the table in memory and now performs a calculation based on that table that is created in memory. It means that it's going to compute the results of that table, right? That table that you are creating is computed in memory, and you can now perform filter aggregations on top of that table. I don't know whether what I'm saying even makes sense to you. So, for example, now, you say, okay, let me ask this question. This is very similar to when you are writing SQL CTE. I don't know if anybody is used to SQL CTE, if you've used it before. You know that you
Yes,
first have
yes.
one query at the beginning. That will be your CTE
Yeah.
one. You have another query. That query might be referenced to the first query. If you have another query again,
Yes.
that will reference the second one. So that level by level breakdown is something that is similar to, it's not a good example anyway, but I'm just trying to, for you to be able to relate to what we are saying. You know, when you write CTE, the table expression, I mean, the query that returns a table, you are not going to see that table, but that table is going to compute in memory before your final query inside that your CTE. I don't know whether what I'm saying makes sense to you guys. So that is exactly the way it works here too for virtual tables. Tables are computed in memory. They're not physically existing in your model, but they only compute at the time that the measure wants to give out an output. Now, I remember the first time that I had an encounter with this. I didn't have a knowledge of it very well like this then. Okay, so this is what happened. My boss then, my manager, told me to, because I was a DA in a logistics uh in a logistics you know environment. So he told me to count the number of trucks that have done more than a certain number of trips. Now look at that question. Number of trucks. So we have different trucks, right? That are always moving goods from one place to another. He wants to know the number of trucks that have done 7 and above trips, right? He wants to know the number of trucks that have done between 4 to 6 trips in a week. He wants to know the number of trucks that have done how will I put it now? Below 4 trips in a week. So then I didn't know how to do it because I struggled because I didn't really understand the concept of virtual table. So if you want to create a complex calculation and you don't want to write everything in one particular DAX expression, you can break it down using virtual tables. It means that you first have the virtual table computed before you now do your aggregation on top of it. Does it make sense to you theoretically, guys? Please, I want your response. I want your interaction. Is it clear to you at all? Okay. Please, if you have questions, please go ahead and ask me. I'm going to answer you. Now, virtual tables are used as an intermediate step to solve complex problems. Now, think of it as a temporary table created in memory and discarded immediately after use, right? Okay, let's go ahead. As a Power BI professional, as a Power BI developer, why should you even learn about virtual tables? Now, virtual tables enable you to do advanced data calculation. That's number one. It helps us to solve real-world problems. For example, grouping, filtering, ranking. Imagine doing all of those inside one DAX expression, right? It improves our understanding of rule context, filter context, and context transition. All these three is what we call evaluation context, right? Now, it reduces the need for extra physical table. Imagine that we want to write a DAX expression, a complex calculation, and we always have to create table. Imagine us having like almost 50 tables in a model. I mean, that would be too much, right? And you know that they always tell us that for optimizing the performance of your reports, it's always very important to create more measures than you are creating physical tables or columns. I don't know whether that's you can relate to what I'm saying, right? Now, it is essential for performance optimization and scalable model, what I just mentioned now. Now, virtual tables is what separates a DAX beginner, someone that just learning DAX, from an advanced developer. It means that if you know how to use virtual table, you move from being just a beginner data professional, Power BI professional, to an advanced Power BI user. Now, what happens behind the scene? I talked about this in-memory processing, that these tables are created in memory. it means that they are not physically created like what you can see inside of your model. When you go to your fixed pane, your Power BI fixed pane, you are not going to be able to see them, right? The way you would see your physical table existing in your model, right? Now, what happens behind the scene is that there's what we call VertiPack engine. That is the in-memory engine of Power BI. We call it VertiPack engine. It means that all your DAX measures that you are writing inside of your Power BI desktop is being processed by this VertiPack engine. It is the in-memory engine of Power BI that helps you process your DAX expression. Now, Power BI uses this VertiPack engine when it's running DAX. It means that a virtual table is created in memory. It's processed row by row or as a set, right? Functions like your SUMX, your filter, your calculate operate on it. The table is discarded immediately after evaluation. It means that after it has evaluated on that table, it has discarded. It's not physically storing the table. Now, some of the key stats for me is that for the computation of your virtual tables, you do not need any disk storage. Doesn't use disk storage. Doesn't require any disk storage. It works with columnar compression. It means that it's usually trying to compress your expression, right? Now, it is highly optimized for aggregations and for filtering. Now, let's look at some of the DAX functions that allows us or helps us to achieve virtual tables. Number one is a function called values. So what does value return? Values return a uniquely. For example, I can say values, open brackets, product ID from the sales table. Now, when I do that, when I have values, open brackets, product ID from the sales table, what that implies is that it's going to return for me a unique list. Now, if I have empty product ID in the sales table, it's not going to return for me because values does not return empty. It doesn't return null, right? Unlike, values return null, but it seems it is distinct that does not return null. If I'm correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. But I want to say what is not correct. Okay. Now, values is part of the functions that help us to achieve virtual tables. We also have filter. What filter does is that filter gives us a subset of the table. For example, you say filter the sales table to only return when the sales is above 10,000. That is, you are filtering the table to only a specific, you are giving a subset of that table. That's exactly what you are doing when you apply filter on a table, right? Now, when you have a function called select columns, this one allows you to select columns in a table. That's if you don't want to return all the columns in that table, right? You can use select columns. It's also a function that allows us to shape the way a table would appear. And the good thing about select columns is that you can also even rename a column to whatever name you want to give it. Like you can rename your column to the name you want to return, right? Maybe, for example, it is called product in the table. You can say you want to call it item, right? Select column allows us to do that. Now, it allows us to create a custom table, right? Now, we have a function called summarize. Summarize helps us to achieve virtual table also because it allows us to group and also at the same time aggregate. Please, can you mute your mic, please? I don't know who that is. Now, if you look at what you are seeing on my screen, you will see summarize sales table. You have to provide it, summarize a table before you now give it the columns you want it to return, right? And that's the difference between summarize and summarize columns. So we are also going to go into the difference between summarize and summarize columns. They are not the same, right? Now, for optimization, it is preferred to always use summarize column rather than summarize because summarize columns will work more better because the VertiPack engine processes and understands summarize column better than summarize. I don't know what I'm saying makes sense to you. So summarize function is more old, right? Sometimes it doesn't respect the filter context, right? Compared to summarize columns, right? And you have to always supply it a table first. That's another thing with summarize, right? But for summarize column, you don't need to. You can even bring in a lot of columns from other tables. So far, you can use a function called related to say, based on relationship, bring this other column from this other table. I don't know whether what I'm saying makes sense to us. Does it make sense, Gabriel? Okay.
Yes, understanding will
Now,
come.
okay. So how not to misuse or overuse your virtual table? Some of the common mistakes that people make is that they use virtual tables when they want to even create a simple measure. You don't need to create, for example, you want to create total sales. Why do you need a virtual table? You don't need a virtual table for that. All you need is an
Hello,
aggregator.
sir.
Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good. This is Lan we're talking. So I quickly want to ask a question. So
Okay, go
concerning the
ahead, please.
summarize and the summarize column, I hope you don't mind.
Yes. Go ahead, please.
So can it be used interchangeably? Like what summarize can do, can summarize column use it? You know, because you are
Yes.
speaking from the context of which one is more which one is more
Optimized.
better optimization. Yeah. So I want to
Yeah.
know if it can be used interchangeably and if summarize column is better or maybe summarize is better. So
So
that's the
from what I
question. Thank you.
said, summarized column is better than summarize because the VertiPack engine, which is the memory engine that processes your DAX expression, works well with that. This summarized column is more optimized than summarize. Sometimes summarize usually ignores or does not transition your filter context properly compared to summarize column. Do you understand? So summarize is the old one. Summarize column is the new one. Do you understand?
Okay, yeah. Understand.
Thank you. Okay. So as I was saying that some of the things to avoid, if you want to do a simple calculation, a simple measure, for example, you want to aggregate, all you need to do is to use an aggregation function. You don't need to use virtual table. You are overusing it. You are misusing it that way, right? It's only used when you want to perform complex calculations. You want to do grouping, filtering, ranking inside the same DAX expression. I don't know whether what I'm saying makes sense. Okay. Now, sometimes when we are using this, when we are creating these virtual tables, we should not forget to use calculate inside of our add column because we write expressions and we want your aggregation expression, you want it to filter properly, right? Based on whatever result you want to give out. For example, now you are using summarize or you are using add column and values, and you are bringing in total sales from another table. You are bringing in some of amongst the column from one table, and you are bringing in values of product ID from product table. Now that sum of amounts to the sales table, you need to use a calculate in front of it for proper filter transition. You need to use it, or else it will not give you a result that you would think is right, but it's not right. Right? I believe that if you have a very good knowledge of calculate function before and context transition, you understand what I'm saying better. Now, creating unnecessary complex nested tables, you don't need to overuse it you don't need to be creating unnecessary nested tables, right? Now, overusing summarize instead of simpler alternative is another common mistake that people do when they are trying to use virtual tables. Now, some people ignore model design. Imagine you are trying to bring in tables that are not even connected to each other in your model. You're trying to bring them together in a virtual table. It might be a problem because there is no relationship, right, between them. And you're not even trying to do anything to enforce that relationship by using things like your treat arts and the rest. I mean, it might not work, right? So in whatever you are doing, always have your model design in mind. Know the tables that connect to each other and how they even connect to each other, right? Okay, let's move ahead. How not to also misuse. Use your virtual tables only when needed for grouping, for iteration, for conditional logic. Now, prefer add columns and values for flexibility, summarize columns for performance. Now, always make sure that you validate your results using what we call debug tables in visuals. I will also show you that how you can validate your result. I will show you, right? Keep your DAX readable and maintainable. I try to tell you that sometimes DAX expression does not have to be complex. DAX expression does not have to be complex. If your data model is right, if you have a solid foundation of dimensional modeling, you understand OLTP systems, you understand OLAP structure, Snowflake star schema, you understand different kind of fact tables that we might have in your model, accumulating snapshots, periodic snapshots, right? Factlex facts. You understand addictive, semi-addictive, non-addictive. You understand different type of dimension that we have. SCD type 0, type 1, type 2, type 3. It will influence how you are going to design your model. How you are going to get to, okay, for example, now you have an SCD type 2 table. You know that yes, this kind of table, you need to have a surrogate key because you're not able to connect your facts table directly to your dimension because of repetition in your product ID, for example. And this table happens because we have changes in price. So you have one product ID appear several times. So everything still boils down to a very good foundational knowledge or background in dimensional modeling. I hope this makes sense to you guys. Okay. So I think a good person I can reference for that is Sid. Because Sid, now she has a very good foundation of dimensional modeling, right? I can attest to that. So if you need more knowledge on that, please reach out to Sid.
I'm in your DM after
She
this
will
section.
Sid can design an OLTP database ELD for you, and not even an OLAP. Did I lie? Sid?
Sir, you set me up in public.
Yeah, it's good. I set you up. It's good. It's good. It's good like that. So please, so all the knowledge that you've learned in class, please come and share with your community. Teach them OLTP database. Teach them OLAP
They are
structure.
handling our next webinar.
Okay, let's go ahead. So I think I come to the end of my slide. Now let's go to the practical now. So just give me a minute. Let me open my Power BI desktop. I'll show you my data model, and we are going to go straight into why we are here today. Okay, just give me a minute. And I will just share my screen again, and you guys will tell me if you can see my screen. Okay, just hold on. I don't know why my Power BI is hanging like this. So I will show you guys my data model anyway, and you will see what we are about to do, and you will see how it makes sense to you, right? Can you guys see my Power BI screen?
Yes, I can see from my end.
Okay,
Your
thank
desktop
you.
is on.
Thank you. So let me go to my model and show you what I have. Sorry, guys, the model in this class might sound a little complex, might look a little complex, but I'll explain to you. So we have two fact tables. So this is a procurement environment. This is a procurement environment. We have two fact tables, the purchase order, and we have the delivery table. Sorry, we have the delivery table. Sorry, please hold on for me, please. Sorry, guys, I have to take water. They said this like water is very, very important to take water. It's very important. Okay, so we have two fact tables, the purchase order table and the vendor delivery table, right? This purchase order table is just when all the procurement managers, they are procuring products that they will put in the warehouse for sales to be able to sell. This one is the delivery. So when the vendors are delivering the order, sometimes because I've worked in procurement before, sometimes it's not every time that if, for example, you buy 50 carton worth of picnic. Sometimes when they are delivering, the vendor might not deliver everything at once. It might be like, they're delivering it at an interval. They bring 20 today, 30 tomorrow. Sometimes it's also influenced by maybe the availability of truck and all those things too. So everything has to do, everything works together. Truck availability, logistics, all those things, right? So that's what this table is representing. This table is representing delivery. Oh, we've bought 100 or 200 packs of Golden More, and now they've delivered 50. That means that vendor is still owing us 150 packs. So this is where you will know. Now, order, delivery, and you have all the other dimensions surrounding them. You have the location, region, you have the product table, you have the vendor table, you have the calendar table. Now you have one funny thing happening here. You have a table called bridge, vendor, and product. It means that that table has a list of all the vendors and the product, because you don't expect that one vendor will sell one product. Multiple vendors can be selling the same product. If A doesn't have, B would have, right? Aha. So that's the way it always happens in real life. You will see procurement managers having contracts with a lot of vendors, selling same because of availability. Because if vendor A doesn't have picnic, I can call vendor B. I have another alternative to get from different sources for me to be able to achieve my procurement goal or target for the month, right? So we have a dream product master table. This table just has it. So this product table here, the dream product you are seeing here, is an SCD type 2 table. It means that based on changes in the price of products, this table tracks those changes. And we have a surrogate key that makes every row to be unique in that table, right? But this one now gives us a unique list of that table is what we are now seeing in this one, right? So that's basically what it is for the model. I mean, you can see the model, right? Now, let's start with our values function and how values helps us to achieve virtual tables. That's why we are here. So I'm going to be creating a new table. I'm going to click on any of the existing table here. I'm just going to say new table. And that table, let's say I want to see a unique list of a table. So I can say values, because I'm using values, right? Let me make this thing bigger so everybody can see clearly. Let me know if you can see the formula. What do we call it, sir? Is it formula bar? What do we call it? Can you see clearly, guys?
Formula bar. Yeah, it's
Yes, we
better.
can see.
Thank you. Now, you will see values. I can say values. I'm going to reference, let me reference an entire table, for example. Let me reference an entire table. So I will say values purchase order table, right? And I'll close my brackets and I press enter. Now, let's go back to our table view and go and see what I just did. The table I just created now is 150 rows. Now, let me go to the table itself, the vendor purchase order itself. See, that's also 150 rows, right? Now, what I'm saying is that values, if you are using values to create a table, a physical table now, it will return a unique, or what we call a distinct list of that table. It means that if it is replicable, let me use another example. I think let's use an example of this product. We see that we have repeated product ID due to changes in price. Now, let me go back to that values now and change it to the dream products. Dream products. The dream products. Let's see. And I press enter. Okay. Now it's returning this because I have a surrogate key. That's why it's returning both my old price and my current price. So let's assume that we do not have this surrogate key there. It just return only one instance of that product ID. Even though the product ID repeats several times because of changes in price, it will only return one instance of the product ID. It means that instead of me having 20 rows, I will have 10 rows. So that is what value does. Value will return a table with a distinct rows in that table. It means that if there is repetition, now let's say I apply this now to product ID here, and not the entire table. Let's see what will happen. If I apply this to the product ID column in my dream products, Where is my product ID column? Oh, where are you? Where? Yeah. You see that now? Normally it repeats, right? PO1, PO1, PO3, PO3. If I close my bracket and I press enter, you see what did it return? Only 10 rows. It returned only what? A distinct list of the product ID. That is how value works. It will return what for you? Just the unique, distinct list rather, of what? Of the product ID. So have you seen how value works now when creating a physical table? Now, let's go and use the same value now to create a DAX measure. We are going to create a virtual table. That means the table will be existing just in memory inside of our DAX expression. Let's see how it works now. So I'm going to go to my virtual table that I've created. I will have all my measures here. So I'll say create new measure. Click on new measure. And let's say what I want to achieve is I want to count the number of products that have sales more than 5,000. I want to count the number of products that the total sales is more than 5,000. See how I'm going to do it now. So I'm going to say values equals to, let me put a comment. The comment is that I want to count products with total sales, with total sales above 5,000, right? Now, let me now go and do it now. So first thing I need is values, and I need the product ID coming from where? The dim products, right? Now, what will happen based on what you already know from creating the physical table? It will create a unique list as a table, right? A unique list of all the products ID, right? That will first happen. Now, I cannot say I'm done with my expression yet, because if I should say, because this is a measure, because what I've written here will return for me a table. And I cannot return a table inside of a measure. A measure is for returning a scalar value, right? For returning an aggregation. That's what measures are for. Now, I'm not done. I also need to have total sales, right? But I cannot have total sales beside product ID without using a function called add columns. So it means that I want to add a column to my distinct list of product ID. So I will use the add column function. We can also use this one to create table also, and we can use them together depending on what we want to achieve. Now, my add column is saying, okay, you have this table already existing. What column do you want to add to this table? I want to add my total. So I have a, what's it called? So let me have to remove this one. I have to remove, yeah, if I'm right. I think I have to close brackets in this one first. Now I have to come here, and I will now, there's a measure for total procured. So I will say total. Oh, why is it not coming up? Sorry, guys, I'm coming, guys. I want to be sure I'm doing the right thing. Aha. Total procured. There's already a measure called total procured, which is a sum of all the amounts of my procurement in my order table. Total procured, right, will be here like this, right? And I'm not going to close the bracket here, right? So I'm saying add column, create a table that has a unique list of all the product ID. Beside that, put the total procured beside it. So I think it has to be like this if I'm correct. Okay. Now, what this will give me is that this will give me a list of all the products, right? Now, beside the product, what I will have is now the total procured inside of the product. I don't know whether it makes sense to you. Does it make sense to you guys? Okay. Now, when I'm using add column, I have to specify the name of this column. So I can still call it total procured again. Total procured, right? Then I have my expression. Now let's assume that I do not have this total procured as a measure. What I will have used is the sum of which column. I will now go to my order table. My order table, where's the table now? My purchase order table. Good. I will now look for the total amount column, right? Total amount column, and I'll close my bracket. But the issue here is that you can't leave this one like this. You have to put a calculate in front of it so that you can transition your aggregation properly. That's why you will need this calculate. Now, that is this one is for if you are writing out the expression, the aggregation explicitly, you are writing it out by yourself. But if you already have it as a measure, you do not need the calculate in front of the sum. Are you getting what I'm saying now? This calculate here is for proper context transition, because what you are looking for is a total sum of each product ID. So, for example, now we have product 1, total sales 20, product 2, total sales 50. That's exactly what you are doing here. So if you just do a sum is an aggregation over a column. But the moment you have an aggregation like this, which is the product ID, you need this calculate for proper filter context. Does it make sense to you guys? Right?
Yes,
So
sir,
when
but
you are
I have
done,
a question.
please go ahead, please.
So would you advise us to use a measure or do the aggregation inside the table itself?
I did not really get that question. Can you come again?
No, I'm saying, like, would you advise us to just use a measure or you do the aggregation inside?
So what do you mean by do the aggregation inside? I want to
Like
understand that.
using calculate and sum, or just use the
Okay,
measure
yes,
you have
I get
created?
you. Yes, we have done that. But what we want to achieve now is more than just a distinct list of products and the total for each one. Are you getting my point now? Sorry, who talked?
Yes, I am. But I'm saying
Okay.
that, like, regularly, would you advise that a measure be used or just do
A
the
measure should be
aggregation?
used if what we are doing is just a simple aggregation. But in this case,
Okay.
what we want to do is not a simple aggregation. We are still going to apply filter to this table.
No.
And still apply counts.
You were talking about the reason why we're using calculate and sum, we're trying to get the total amount. So I'm saying that would you advise us to just use the measure, like
the
inside?
measure one. Oh,
yes.
okay. Yes, you can use the measure if you already have it already before. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can use the measure. But if you don't have the measure, you can just use the aggregation. But make sure you put the calculate in front of it.
Okay.
Do you understand? Thank you. Sorry, I didn't get your question for at the first this thing. Sorry about that. So I have add columns and I have total procured beside it. Now, I also want to, don't forget what I want to do. Don't forget what you want to achieve. Your final output will determine how you're going to write your expression. Now, we want to count products with total sales above 5,000. Number one, we have a list of the products. We have total sales already decided now based on our add columns. These values return a distinct list. This one total procured. This one we are adding a new column because the product table does not have total sales inside of it, right? So we needed to bring it beside the product ID. Now the next thing I'm going to apply now, I'm going to apply a filter. Everything I'm still doing, it will return for me a table result. So I'm adding a filter. And what's my filter? My filter is now when my total procured. I'm not closing this bracket now. When my total procured, this one, is greater than 5,000. Don't forget that everything we are still doing here cannot give us a scalar value. It is still giving us, if I press enter now, it will return error because this is a measure, not a table. I don't want to return a table in this if I'm creating a table now, it's different. Now I'm creating, I want a final aggregation. Now, this one now has now filtered down this our virtual table. Our virtual table starts from the add column up to this point, right? We have a unique list of product ID, we have total procured beside it. We are now filtering that table to say, filter this created virtual table now to be only when total procured is greater than what? 5,000. Now, don't forget that what I still want is that I still want to count. I still want to count too. Now, I will now still come here and do a count rows. That, okay, after you've applied filter now, count for me, right? Count for me now the total number of products. So I think I need to close parentheses somewhere here. No, I don't need to. Just hold on for me. Let me know where I'm going to close my brackets. So I've closed bracket for my add columns now. Right? So this one is supposed to close my bracket 2 times here. Right? Okay. Okay. So now I now said, okay, count rows for me based on this table that you have created, starting from here, from the filter to the add columns to the values to my aggregation. Now count for me the number of rows in that virtual table that their total procured is greater than 5,000. Where am I making a mistake here? So my add columns, my values are closing here. My add columns should close here, right? My filter should close here, right? Then I'll have one other bracket for the count rows. Okay, let's see. I return an error, I guess. I think it's the filter part that I have issues with.
So I think, Mr. Gbenga,
Yeah.
I think the calculate, right? You've not fully closed it. What we
Okay, I should
closed
close it
was
2
the
times.
sum.
Yeah.
You're supposed
Okay.
to close the calculate. Then I think this particular bracket is working for the add column part. The one at the
Yes.
end of the total procured is still not, the filter has still not been closed. So maybe I think that total procured will probably have 3 brackets, close brackets, to be able to close the add column part of it.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Filter, then my count rows now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So you will now see what will happen now. When I now bring in a card chart, for example, I don't know why I'm not always saying card chart in my listing. Let me bring in a table. You see, I can copy any of the available card charts from my other system here. Okay. So I'll copy this one, come here. I will remove all the word value I have here. And I will now bring in that values. Now it's telling me that 10 products have sales above 5,000. How can we confirm this? The same measure that we wrote here. Let's bring it up to filter. And this is to create a table. Right? Let's see. Let's see now. So we've used this to create a table now. Go back to the table now. And what do you see? Total procured for each product. Look at the values here now. You see that everything is above 5,000. Let me change the number now. Let's go to my measure. Let me change the numbers to 200,000. Or let me say 300,000. So 3, okay. Right, 300,000. Now let's go back to, what is it giving me now? that I only have 9 products that are above, that their total procured is above 300,000. If I go back now to my values, what I created, you see that it will also return 9 rows. And I press enter. It's only return 9 rows for me, right? See now, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You even see 9 rows here. So it means that what we have done as a measure, you can use the table to also reconfirm the answer, right? We filtered, we first used values to give us a list of product ID. We added a column called total procured beside it, and that will give us an aggregated sum of total procured for each of the product ID. In this, you see that this is creating a table for us. This is a table, but when you use the same expression inside a measure, it becomes a virtual table. Does it make sense to us, guys? It means that we are performing an aggregation or a calculation over what is supposed to return a table for us. So we are telling you to now count the list of all the product ID that their total sales is now. How am I saying sales? Their total procured rather is above 300,000. Is it clear to you how to use virtual tables using values? Using values, add columns, filter, and count rows. Does it make sense to you now? Because I want your response, guys. Let me know if it's clear or it's not clear before I go to the next one.
Level.
It's clear, right? Charles,
Yeah,
Abiba, Sid,
from my end, yeah.
Olanriwaju is a Dima. Okay, no problem. Let's go ahead. Now let's try another function. We are going to achieve this same thing, but we are going to use another function. So let's look at let me go back to my slide. Which one did I say I'm going to use again? Let's try out. So you guys already know what value does. You know what filter does. You know, filter. Let's try summarize before we go to select column and summarize columns. Let's try summarize. Okay, so I'm going to create a new measure again. We now see how do we summarize. Summarize works also helps you to achieve aggregation too. So let's see. So we now call this one summarize. Summarize. And we'll now say summarize. It will tell you, so just if you follow the IntelliSense, it will ask you that what do you want to return a table first. So I have my is what they call order. My order table is one of my fact tables. My order table, you have to supply the table first, comma. The next thing, what do you want to aggregate by? You want to aggregate by probably the product ID. The product ID from this table. Let's say product name. Go to return the product name, right? Oh, sorry. Let me return product ID instead from that order table. The product ID. You see that I can't call product ID from. Even if I did that, it might cause problem for me. Product ID from where is it called? This table I have, right? And beside it, what do I want? I want the total. I want the my total procured, right? Why is it not showing that for me? No, I'm coming. I want an aggregation, right? So I'm going to first call out the table name, followed by the column I want to use for my aggregation, which is my product ID, right? Then I can come here again and now say, oh, let me follow my IntelliSense. I don't know why it's not bringing this for me now. Oh, it seems it wants another column. But do I want another column? No. Let me look at. So I'm coming back. Let me look at that fact table. That's my purchase order table now. I'm still coming back here. I want to look at the columns that I have. I'll come to my table view here. My table view here. Why is this thing hanging like this? So I come to my table view and I come to this purchase order table. Okay. So I have product ID, I have quantity, I have vendor location and all of that. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So I'll go back again to my measure and it's going to be, so I'm summarizing this table now based on what? My based on the product ID. So the product ID is my point of aggregation now, right? It's my point of aggregation. And what I'm going to do now is that after this, I'll come down here and I'll give it a name. What name am I giving this? I'm calling it total procured. Total procured. Right? And what is my expression? Let me just call out the total procured measure instead of using sum of whatever. Right? Now I can close my bracket here. Now this one will return a table for me that has a list of the product ID and total procured beside it too. Does it make sense to you what we are doing here? Just like when we were doing values, it's almost the same thing, right? Now I now have the same filter, just like I did the other time. I've had the same filter on top. And what do I want in the filter? I want it to return for me when my total procured is greater than what? 300,000. What I do is just like we are saying, you can achieve the same thing using different method, right? 300, I've applied the filter now, right? I'll now put my count rows again. Say, after you've applied filter now, count the rows, right? Count the rows on this table for me, table that you have created virtually, right? Now, I will now come back to my report view here. Oh, I'm already on the report view. I will come back there. Oh my God, sorry. Okay, I'll come back there. Let me duplicate these card charts and I will drag my results inside here. And you see that it also returns the same thing. Now let's look at the two. Values, see the way I used values. Values returned unique list. But if I need other columns, I need to use add columns with values for me to bring in other columns together with the add value column. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sorry, before I can add another column with the values, I needed to use add columns again to join values. But for summarize, I did not need to do that. Summarize can aggregate a table. Just supply the table name, supply the aggregation points, and supply the aggregation itself. And add a filter and a count row on top of that. Does it make sense to us, guys? Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? Class is very dull.
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead. Now you can achieve the same thing by using summarize columns. Go to a new measure. And we are going to say summarize columns. This one will be summarize columns, right? Equals to, and we'll say summarize columns, right? Now, another reason why I love summarize column is that unlike summarize, that you will not be able to bring in column from other tables like that. It's not straightforward with summarize. But in summarize columns, you can bring in other columns from other tables. So let's first try a simple method now. So summarize column, you don't even need to supply it the table name first. You don't need to supply it the table name first. Just supply the column you want. So what column do I want now? I want the product ID coming from the order table. Right? Okay. I want that, comma. And what is the name of my, what do I want to I want to return total sales now, right? And I will name the measure totals. How am I saying total? Me and sales now. Now, wow. Total procured, right? Comma. And what's my expression? Total procured, the measure, right? And I would close my brackets, right? Now, don't forget what I did in the initial one. What did I do? Can someone tell me what I did in the initial one? What did I hatch? Gabriel.
Filtered.
I filtered, yes. So what did I filter?
To get the total procured to be where the total procured is more than a specific number, which is 7,000 or I'm sorry, 300,000 in this case.
Okay, total procured now greater than 300,000.
300,000.
Okay, what's the next thing that I did after that?
For which of for the summarized or for the value?
For the other ones, what did I do after filter? I counted rows.
Okay, sorry, you counted the number of rows that would give us that.
Exactly. Count rows. Don't forget that we use count rows for table. Over a table.
Okay.
Okay. You see that's going to give us the same results. Also going to be 9. So you see now that the same different measures, different DAX function gives us different results. So the same results rather. It now depends on how which one you want to use. It's like you have different ways to achieve the same thing. Now let's look at another good thing that I like about summarized column is this. So I've called the product ID. Let's say I want to call the vendor ID. Let's say I want to call the vendor ID. So I can choose the vendor ID coming from the vendor table, right? I can choose the vendor ID comes from the vendor table. I have this one now. Now, let me ask you a question, guys. Would this one change our count to results? Yes or no? When we added vendor ID now
Come again, sir.
to the summarized column, is it going to change our count results, our count rows results? Is it going to change? If yes, tell me why. Tell me why. Why is the Gabriel only the one responding? Where is Sid? Where is Abibat? Samuel Lawa? What will happen since I've added vendor ID? What do you think will happen now?
I think
will our count rows still be 9 or not?
I don't think it will be 9 because it will also probably count the number of vendors alongside the
product ID.
Yes. Okay, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if that.
Let's see now. Let's see. Let me press enter. So what is it showing now?
Nothing.
It's showing nothing, right? Let me reduce it to probably 40,000 and press this. Now,
so let me guess that what it has done is that it is placing two conditions side by side, saying it is only returning say vendors and product ID that have a specific
two
value.
columns now. Exactly.
So those two
vendor
columns
and product ID that means filter condition. Yes. So you see that adding more and more columns will change the level of aggregation what the result of the count will be like. You see that another good thing about summarized column is that I'm calling the vendor from where? Vendor ID from which table?
The vendor table.
I'm calling product ID from where?
From the facts table.
So let me call product ID now from the product table now. Not the fact table. So I will just say product ID. Product ID from where?
From the dimension product table. You've passed it. Yeah.
Okay. Let me Press enter now. Aha. Now, you see now that it's giving me vendor ID first before the product ID. It will make the table to be bigger because it will list out all the products for each vendor. All the products now for each vendor before giving us the total procured per each row in that virtual table that is created. So does the summarized column, is it clear to you? You see the flexibility around things. You want to use values. If you need some other columns from other tables, you need to bring in add columns. You want to use summarize. You can only reference one table. If you need to reference more than one table, you need to use related. If you want to use summarize column, you can bring in, you don't need to supply the table name first. You can supply the columns you need and the aggregation is going to perform it all over. You see how they are different now. Let's now talk about the last one we are doing today, which is the select columns. Gabriel, we are laughing. It seems something is interesting to you. Your mic is muted. Now let's go to go ahead.
I'm just glad I'm in this section, and then my head is just everywhere. I'm just smiling. I'm like, oh, boy, you don't know nothing yet.
No, stop feeling that way, I beg. Everybody has been there like that one time or the other. So let's go. So let's use now select column. You know why I like select column, right? You can even rename your column name. So, for example, when I say select columns, what column do I want to return? So,
the product ID.
Let's say I want to return values. I'll still use values. Oh, sorry. My products, what's it called? Product ID table. And product ID in my product table, right? Okay. If I need another column, what do I do? If I need another column, what do I put beside values? What do I put beside values, guys? Add columns. Forgotten. Add columns, right?
I was saying that I didn't know my mic was muted.
Okay. No issues. Now I want to bring in another column. Let's say vendor ID. Instead of now calling it vendor ID, I want to call it vendor. And what will now be my vendor? My vendor will now be vendor ID. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. Let me go back again. So,
That column
so because I'm using values, right? I think the add column should come. Sorry, I think I got my mistake.
Column should be inside the select column.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I'm going to put my add columns here, right? It's not going to be now. What's my expression is what? Total. So that's not what I want to actually achieve. I want to actually be able to rename the column. I want to be able to rename the column. So let me cancel everything. Let me start again. I will say select columns. Now, what is my IntelliSense telling me? What's the first thing that I'm to do here?
Is to bring in the
I can't see the IntelliSense because my this thing is too small. Let me make it smaller a little so I can see my IntelliSense. It's telling me to return what?
It's still not showing.
Still not showing. Aha, a table. So I'll return a table.
Then
I'll return the other table. Right? I'll return the other table. Now, what name do I want to give this column? So the vendor ID now, I want to now call it vendor. I want to call it vendor now. I don't want to call I don't want vendor ID to appear. I want to call it vendor, right? And what do I need? So, it's still an expression that I need, or not a column. So let's say I need total procured again. Total procured. And my expression will now be total procured, right? Okay. Now this one will return for me so I gave it the name of the expression first. Sorry, my table first, and I gave it the expression. Oh, this is not how I want to write it. I'm coming. Let me go back to my slide. I'm forgetting something. Sorry. Okay, so I call the name of my table, the name of the aha. You see now I can bring out the name of the column by renaming the column name. I can also apply the same thing to what? The expression. So let's go. Now, one thing about select column is that you will not be able to, okay, I will explain better. Let me cancel this first. So I will now say, instead of calling this one vendor ID, let it be called what? Vendor. Let it just be called vendor. So you see now I have it here. I have it here. Now, let's say I want to bring in this vendor from the vendor table itself and not the fact table. What I'll just do is to use related, and I will call vendor ID from the vendor table. Now, because the table that I'm referring to in my select column is the purchase order table, right? But I cannot just call in vendor ID like that. I have to use related because there's a relationship that exists between vendor table and my fact table. Now, to call it out, I need what? I need that, what's it called? I need that related function, right? Comma. Let's say I need what again? I need location. So I'll call it location. Sorry, I don't know why it's not showing. Location, instead of calling it location ID, I'll call it location. And what will be my expression again? Related what? Is it location ID or what did I call it? Location ID, right? Okay, close the bracket. Now, one thing about select column is that select column will not give you aggregation like the other ones. So, for example, now I want to call it total procured now. You know, the other one, I was able to bring in measure, right? For this one, I will only bring in the column. As I said, it's called select column. So this one will position us in row context now, not filter context or context transition. So I will just have to call out now the amount column inside of my order table. You see that I'm not able to call out the total procured like the rest, because this one will give me a row by row, the vendor row, the region, the location row, and the amount row coming from the procurement, from the purchase order table. Are we getting these select columns, guys? Is it making sense? So if you now want to do your count now, your count can now be based on what? You can even apply filter now. Just like the way you apply filter on your normal table. You now say apply filter now. And what are you applying? How your filter apply now? It's not going to be total procured now, right? You can now say total, when your total procured, right, is greater than what? 40,000. You close the brackets. You don't tell it to count rows based on that. You count rows now based on table that you have created. Now, the result for this one will be a little different from what you saw before. Okay, so let me copy, paste this. This is my select columns now. I'm now going to bring it inside of this place. You see that it returned 40 rows. It returned 40 rows, right? Compared to this other one, 42. So this one is vendor. So the other one I return product, right? So let me just return product here. Let me return products. And let's see. It's going to give us the same results. Sorry. Okay. Let's see where it's going to be 42 like this one. So it's not changing. Why is the number 42 and this one is 40? Let's see. Let's go back to our summarized column. Okay. Now, this one is basing it on aggregation. It means that we have a unique list of, we have a distinct list of vendor ID and the product ID, and the aggregation itself for each of the vendor ID with the product ID. And now applying filter based on that. It's different from this one that we have the table row by row, not see that this total procured is not an aggregation. It's just giving us the normal column of that this thing. Now, for us to get this 42, what we will have done here is to now put a calculate in front of this one, right? For it to, since it cannot work here. Since calculate cannot work here. I have to close the bracket now. So it cannot work here. So I'm going to remove my calculate. So this one will give us, it position us in a row context kind of form. Because what we are applying here is the filter after, it should apply the filter after the table. So it's applying this filter based on the row now, not based on an aggregation of vendor and location. I don't know whether what I'm saying makes sense to you. I don't know whether it makes sense to you guys.
Understanding is coming.
Or is the little understanding complex? Will come later. Yes. At this point.
So that's why this one is returning. So this one now, okay, let's see this now. Let me first go and do this. Let me first copy this one. Now let's go and put it here. And I do this. Let's see how the table will look like. Let me go to the table. Let me go to the table. Values. You see now, it's not even arranging this thing very well. You see that the total procured is coming first before the vendor ID and the this thing. I have 150 rows, right? Now, if I now apply, let me go back to this water. I now apply my filter total procured 40,000. So I'll now come in. I'll now apply my filter. Right? And I'll say, that'll be based on so I'm coming place. Okay, I want to be sure of something. Total procured greater than 40,000. So how do we interpret this now? So let me now, I have 150 rows now, right? And now enter now. It has reduced this to 40, right? It means that for each of the row, it's looking at above 40,000 for the per row level now. So I'm using my aggregated total procured to filter row by row. That's the interpretation of this. I don't know whether it makes sense to you. That's why you're seeing 40 in the answer, in the menu.
So, but I think the one we did, this summarized column, did we do it by vendor or we did it by product and which ID? I don't know.
We did it by vendor ID and product ID.
For the summarized columns.
For the summarized column. But you know that select column is not aggregating like summarized column, like summarize. It's just giving us row by row results, like turning the table, like a row, like the normal table, row by row. The other ones are aggregating based on a particular ID, whether vendor ID or product ID. So aggregating is different from this one that is giving us row context. has given us row by row result, not aggregation. You see that we were not able to do total procured, call out the total procured whatever measure like the way we did in the other ones. We want to return row by row now, the results. I don't know whether it makes sense to you. Select column and summarize column.
It's a row by row
how they are
complex.
different.
Instead of summarizing.
Instead of aggregating, exactly. It's different. So depending on what you want to do will determine. So this one is looking at every transaction row by row. This other one is looking at aggregated one. That's why it's not returning the same results. Do you understand it now?
Yeah.
Any questions so far? I'll ask you in another class now. Anybody have any question?
So guys, any question? Let me see the people on the call. Fauzia, Aremu, Abiba, Seed. I don't expect you to have any question anyways. Yeah, our boss. So from my end, I think I don't have any question. From my end, I don't have any question.
Okay, if there are no questions, we can call it a day. Thank you guys for having me.
All right, so I just want to say a very big thank you to you, sir, for honoring us. Hopefully, we have you again, and I'm sure we would love to have you again. Okay. I began the class by saying we are doing this from Abuja PUG user group, and I started by introducing myself, of course, Starboy, Gabriel Tobaya, and then I have two of my team leads on the call. Of course, you can see Seed's face. Seed, can you just say hi to us? Let's see your face. It's been a while.
Seed is chopping Abuja money.
See.
Okay.
And then I also
Hello,
have Fauzia. Fauzi, Z, are you still on the call?
Yes, I am. Hello. Hi.
Z, see how your skin is glowing. After this, I will call
Gabriel,
you.
it's too early in the morning, please.
Is she in Abuja too?
Please.
No, she's with you. She's with you there.
Oh, she's in Canada.
Yes, sir.
That's why she's saying early in the morning. It's not early in the morning here. Violence can start here already.
Come and join my user group here.
So what is your user group?
Don't worry. I will send. What I'll do is I will send Seed my number to send to you.
Okay, sir.
Don't be angry now. Don't worry. She will join our user group here too. She can do it together now.
All right. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir, for
thank you for
honoring
Yeah,
our
thank you very
invite.
much, sir, for an
Thank you
insightful
so much,
class.
everybody. Thank you for having me.
So, guys, see you next month. And as we go, other plans rolling out, we keep letting us know about that. All right, guys. I would end the recording here, and would see next month. It was nice having this section with us. So would hopefully have another section by April ending.